This is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, August 4th. Starting later today, not my fault. Usually it's my fault. Usually I can say, well, it's insomnia or something like that. I overslept. I was just running a little slow. At least when I'm blaming insomnia, I'm blaming my own body. So I still would claim that as my fault. This time, uBlock Origin, which is what I use to edit out the news articles and make them look much more presentable on a big screen, and just kind of recontextualize and rewrite the same news, which is somewhat an element of fair use. It's much more copyright infringement to show an entire web page than it is to just show the important aspects of entire web page, particularly if you're not commenting on, say, the logo or the ads on a page. Although, in all fairness, some of that is also just a new form of accreditation. So both arguments. Let's buy one pack just so we open a pack every stream. Anyways, uBlock Origin just crashed, and I suspect it might have been in part because Chrome updated and is trying to implement its own new ad blocking type security things that would let Google ads still through and block pretty much everything else. That seems to be what Google does every time they act on the pretense that they are going to do something to benefit the end user. It's really just to protect their own AdSense business. Let's check this first. Ooh, private match. Do I even want to try and do a private match? I don't think I do. When there's not an event happening, private matches are kind of crazy. This leaves me with Swordcraft and Bloodcraft victories, which will be fairly easy to do. So let's just pick. Do we want to play a Swordcraft or Bloodcraft? I think we want to play Swordcraft, and let's hop in there. So I've been spending the past hour or so rebuilding my uBlock Origin, and so things are just going to look a little wonky, probably going forward for a while, until I just get more ambitious with trying to fix visuals. I had it set in pretty well. Mostly that's just Video Games Chronicles, Steam, Gamasutra, and Gametsu, as far as those websites and the ad blocking. Everything else is more incidental, and on a daily stream we're not likely to even go to any other different pages.
Ignorance will be swept away.
But yeah, I've been spending a couple of hours extra fixing that and setting that up, which is annoying. I did manage for the accountability section to play some Batman Arkham City. In all fairness though, the problem here is I'm doing like 3 or 4 hours a day when I am playing Batman Arkham City, and every time I play for an hour, I end that hour going, boy, does it not feel like I've done anything at all. There's just a lot of collectathon, wander around looking for Riddler trophies in that game, and if you were to make an abridged version of Arkham City where it just faded to black when you didn't enter a building, like if you got rid of the entire open world, or even if you kept the open world but didn't have any of the collectibles, you could easily have a nice 10-hour or less experience with Arkham City and have saved yourself a lot of just random time wasting content that really seems like it's only there to make a game feel like it's 60 hours long when it really shouldn't be. There's like 400 collectibles. Very little of that is necessary. Meanwhile, the actual game has 8 at best medium-sized dungeons. In reality, you would really describe them as fairly small dungeons. There's also not that encounters encounters in each of the dungeon. You're getting 3 or 4 encounters that were like the encounters in Arkham Asylum, but it feels like there were more in Arkham Asylum, more puzzly, take out these guys concepts. Now the open worldness, the larger open world settings of Arkham City compared to the small open areas that were really just single areas, 3 small areas, like in Arkham Asylum, those were the areas where you would just pretty much just beat up on people and not try and solve a stealth puzzle to take out the enemies quickly. Now you have a lot of sections inside the dungeons where you just beat up on people, and there really isn't a puzzle to try and stealth your way and take out the characters, on top of a smaller number of the stealth puzzle sections. In all fairness, though, I don't think the stealth puzzle sections are particularly good anyways, and I honestly just think if they animated it more like the Telltale Batman game, if they just told a story, if there was no beat 'em up, free flow, button mashing action sequence, it probably would be a better Batman experience. It may not be a better game. I've also realized as I've unlocked some more of the abilities and gadgets, that some of the augmented reality side mission things you really aren't going to be able to accomplish at all unless you have particularly the Line Rider gadget, which is a gadget from the first game, and honestly you're not getting any gadgets that weren't just in the first game, so there's not a great explanation even as far as why, when you started the game as Bruce Wayne with no Batman stuff on him, which is questionable in the first place, but alright, Bruce Wayne probably expected to be captured at the beginning of that experience. But you order a basic missile drop of your bat outfit at the beginning of the game, and that's how you get into the bat suit. And with that order, you obviously didn't order all of the equipment you would want to have. And the only thing that would even slightly explain that is that Batman says a bigger bat belt with more gadgets would slow them down. But that doesn't really make any sense, because now you still are having all those gadgets in your inventory by the point you get to the end of the game, so that's not really a good explanation. It would be funny if you tried to make a Batman game where all the gadgets literally did slow you down, and you had to, I don't know, in an RPG style, build up your strength so you don't become over encumbered. At least that would slightly make sense. But it's not like Bruce Wayne at the beginning of the game was particularly beat up and incapable of holding things. If anything, he gets poisoned and gets weaker throughout the game. Which comes to the next part. It's only a slight spoiler that they're bringing in characters, and one of the characters that they bring in is Ra's al Ghul and his daughter Talia al Ghul. That's 2 characters, I guess. And to bring in the League of Assassins and Talia al Ghul, they make one Ninja Girl model, 3D model skin, which looks horrible, and it makes it look like they are all clones of the same person, because it is literally 4 or 5 ninja girls attacking you, and they all look exactly the same, like clones, even down to having the same tattoos. Graphically, they look terrible. It is the only point in this game where you have actually fought a woman bad guy at all, with the exception of a slight, you smacked, I think, Harley Quinn at the very beginning of the game. Like you hit her once or deflected her attack once, and that was it. And then people pulled guns on you, which honestly, there's just a huge amount of benevolent sexism in Arkham City. I hate to have to make a point that sounds somewhat similar to Feminist Frequency's argument, but Arkham City really is like a great example of sexist design. There's no way around it. There's a huge amount of benevolent sexism because you have 4 or 5 different skins for random bad guys from 4 or 5 different tribes of gang members, and all of them are male. Not a single female amongst them. When they throw the ninja girls at you, they look way worse because they don't care about them, or probably because they thought they might not even include them. And on top of those lesser, more difficult to recognize sexism, there is the blatant and obvious sexism that every single character in this game that's female is drawn incredibly from a male gaze sexual lusting eye, or male gaze is probably the wrong phrase to use these days, but I don't know a better phrase. Like all of them have cleavage, all of them are drawn as sex objects. There's not a single female character whose outfit hasn't been changed differently from what it has been depicted up until that point. It's bad. I mean, I don't know what else you even can say. It's a clear example of them just not being even anywhere close to thinking about being respectful to the characters as they'd been drawn before, as they've been established. None of the characters are particularly given a lot of story as far as the female characters. Like the Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul fight itself could have just been Talia al Ghul, or it could have just been Ra's al Ghul. The tight leather pants they put Talia al Ghul in are animated half the time as a slightly dark brown color, which makes it look like, well, it's like the inner fabric. It's like the outer fabric is one color, the inner fabric is another color, but it's in a color palette that makes it look like it's straight up see-through. Like she's wearing these kind of brownish blue outer fabric on the outer sides of her hips and her legs, and then the inner thighs, pelvis, buttocks, all of that in kind of a thong pattern looks to be see-through, as if she's just walking around and you could see through right up her behind. And I would hope that wasn't intentional, but it does not look good at all. They needed someone to talk about fashion in general, because this is the laziest, just sexist fashion you could possibly see, because it really is, hey, let's make this character more sexy. Alright, well, I know what to do. Let's just show more cleavage. Let's just show more belly. Let's just show more arms, and like there's better ways to do that. There's more descriptive ways to do that. And for like Harley Quinn, her outfit being remade actually is a good idea. That original Harley Quinn outfit it was made for a cartoon, and they were doing it on the cheap so they wouldn't have to animate a lot of detail. For a game, making it more detailed makes sense. It also is a very generic, like, clown outfit. But what they did to redo her outfit, and arguably it's better just because they did it in Arkham. They put more effort, I think, in redoing outfits in Arkham Asylum than they have in Arkham City. What they did was continue down that same path of just trying to show more skin.
Enemy or no, you did good.
And frankly, if you care about Batman at all as a story, and you know, like, who Harley is, boiling her down into just a crazy sidekick with no personality other than being an object of desire is insulting. It's insulting with any character. Like, at a certain point, if you are going to make a character that is just going to be an object of sexual desire, you have to start off fresh and new there. And as soon as people demand more, and you have to give some backstory and characterization to those type of characters, that's when the character has to actually grow. So yeah, had they, well, I'm trying to think of a game that would be a great example. There was one game that had you fighting in World War II in France, and there were actual cabaret dancers that were like topless, and there was posters of topless characters. I don't even know if the 3D models were ever shown topless, if it was just pictures, and that all got censored out in that game. Was very much like Assassin's Creed, but isn't just even being sold anymore. Like, those characters are about the only characters I could think of that would be like, all right, these are cabaret topless dancers. They're there specifically to be objects of sexual desire. That game was very weird in that it was censored unless you bought the DLC, and then they took the DLC away, and you couldn't buy the DLC to uncensor it any more. And I think they actually took it away from other people who had already bought the game. So even if you had bought in the DLC, they shut down the servers or something to screw over the place. But yeah, I think that's about the only kind of characters you could have, is, or you know, in a more well-known reference, Duke Nukem 3D. When you're going through the porn shop and you're seeing strippers, and like at that point, that's the kind of character you can create. And frankly, those kinds of characters get very boring very fast because they are very one note. But yeah, you can't do that. You really shouldn't be doing that to Harley Quinn or Poison Ivy or Talia al Ghul. If they actually show us Oracle, I wouldn't be surprised if she's redrawn to be more scantily clad also. Robin did show up for a brief second, but you didn't get to play as him, which I think I'm probably somewhere around 60 to 80% done with the story, but I'm nowhere close to getting all the collectibles. I don't even have the gadgets. Robin is fully clothed and boring character. Like, it's the Dick Grayson Robin, but he's fairly grown up, which does certainly beg the question if this was in a universe where Talia al Ghul actually does give birth to Damian Wayne. Most people didn't even like Damian Wayne, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even choose to include him in that universe. But yeah. So yeah, the only female character that's been shown in the entire game of Arkham City, and I know I'm going on about this, but it really sticks out. It's really obvious. And yeah, it's getting more obvious for me in some games, certainly. Dead Space 3 also basically abused and misused the female character, again putting her in cleavage in every cutscene she's in, when she's really only in like 2 or 3 cutscenes in the entire game anyways. Some of the pinball tables certainly are designed to sell on sex, although in all fairness, pinball tables knew what they were doing, and they were being very obvious about it and intentional about it. So I kind of respect it a little bit more that you would make an Elvira game and Elvira would be in on the joke and making the sexual references. If anything, most of the pinball tables that I covered on Pinball Arcade had more of a problem of just not including a female character at all, let alone they hadn't even really gotten to the point of including characters just to be objects of desire.
Trying calculations set. Ready to summon.
A glimpse into the future is only the beginning.
Yeah, but I guess that's about enough of that. Yeah, I have been playing a little Batman Arkham Sun. I'm still working on my irrigation manifold box. I worked on it a little bit yesterday, and part of the problem, it's don't buy anything that has any plastic on it. This is what I can say. For any garden hose connector, don't buy anything at all that has any plastic on it whatsoever. Get 100% brass everywhere you can go. And I don't mean like don't buy things that have rubber washers in it. Obviously they're going to have some kind of rubber washers in it. Although if they had plastic washers in them instead of rubber washers, that'd be a problem too. So I bought a 1-to-4 hose splitter. First one I snapped, trying to get stress relief because the faucet spigot was just pointing in the wrong direction. I had to buy a special swivel adapter to relieve that tension, and then I put it into a second 1-to-4 hose splitter, and the second one does fit, but it doesn't seal correctly in its own part of the screw-on head. Which honestly, I'm so desperate just to get this project finished that I wouldn't even care if it leaked a little bit when the valves are turned on. Like, I kind of don't even care past that point. I just need it to not leak 24/7 when the faucet is turned on, because the faucet needs to be turned on to the valves 24/7. And so it's not leaking because of the threads. It's not leaking because of the female head connecting to the male spigot part. It's leaking under that part, because that part under there either doesn't have a big enough washer or a tight enough connection, and I couldn't get it any tighter, to seal, or just straight up has this design that is bad. And maybe it's because I've been working with it enough that I put some pressure on it and separated it, but I don't think so. I just think it's cheap Chinese plastic, and that's the problem, really. Anything that's a lot of these connectors and fitters with cheap Chinese. And see, I had a very similar problem with another adapter, and I replaced that adapter, and yeah, that seemingly has solved that problem. So to try and solve this, I had gotten pipe thread, pipe plumber's putty type stuff, and I just slattered as much of that stuff as possible. I don't know how toxic it is, but it did say to wear gloves, so I did say, alright, I'm gonna wear gloves. Last thing I need to do is end up in the hospital because I've touched some chemical, and it definitely did give off nauseous fumes while I was putting it all around. And so yeah, I've just slattered a ton of the putty, and it did fill in the crack between the device. Mostly when I turned on the water, though, it still was leaking. It did say wait 48 hours if you're going to pressurize it up to 100 psi. It is supposed to be airtight. So I'm hoping that the stuff I bought hardens, whereas it's possible there is some stuff out there that doesn't ever harden after 48 hours and just fills in the hole and just forms a filler. I'm thinking if this doesn't work, either I replace the 1-to-4 splitter with a all metal one, which would be this would be the like third instance of replacing that component, which that certainly sucks. And the whole way I built the thing is wrong. Like I just came from a different perspective and came from the idea of trying to get it to fit one way in the box when I could have gotten it to fit a couple of other ways just by rotating 90 degrees. And yeah, there definitely was a much cheaper, better way to do this, and I've now realized. But yeah, I'm hoping the plumbing putty sets and everything is done. Otherwise, I'm thinking either getting a new 1-to-4 all metal splitter or buying a can of waterproof expanding foam and just spraying the box with waterproof expanding foam, which that's dangerous, certainly. Like, you spray that stuff, it makes a huge mess every time. It gets all over your clothes, it gets all over your hands. I've never been able to use the expanding foam without it being a nightmare, and then it gets stuck to your hands and stays that way for usually half a week or longer, pretty much until your skin replaces the outer layer.
No one gets past me.
And it certainly, if I start spraying around the box, I may just fill the whole box with foam, or a lot of the box with foam, and it's not really what you want. Like, at some point, I would like to be able to be able to work on this if a plumber needs to be called or if something needs to be replaced. Making it kind of a permanent thing where a plumber would have to break a box and then cut off a pipe and just smash things with a sledgehammer basically to get it removed, is not ideal. Even using the plumbing putty is gonna make it look ugly, but I'm hoping that there's some kind of acetone or something that could break the plumber's putty if necessary. But even if it does look bad, you could probably get most of the components off and just maybe cut off the pipe and put on a new spigot in general. And yeah, that's a whole nightmare, and that certainly explains why my next time I do this, which is probably going to be next year,
There's a battle underway.
coming out of the spigot to the rest of the device, I'm going to try and just use a short rubber hose. That will fix water hammer issues. That will make sure there's no stress problems. It'll mean I could potentially put the spigot in a completely different place from just being directly atop of a connection of more solid plastic connectors. It also potentially makes it way easier to just open the box, remove the hose, and use the spigot like a regular spigot to hand water. I mean, you could even put a little splitter there if you put enough room on it. And yeah, I'm already giving up on the anti-siphon connection. I'm also kind of giving up on the box being waterproof. I can try and do that, but I think that would also be a bit of a mess. I'm just going to try and make sure it doesn't have such incredibly big holes that rodents and giant animals and insects try and get into it. But even that is going to be a nightmare, because now I'm going to have to work basically upside down.
Let the clouds roll in.
That's once again a problem with it, is that this has become more of a permanent install than I would have liked it to be. Like, theoretically, you would want it to be a case where you could just screw in 4 screws to screw it into the wall, then remove those 4 screws and remove it from the wall. Now it would be break at least one connection and hope that the plumber's putty doesn't make that incredibly difficult, and then remove the 4 screws on the wall, and then potentially have to disassemble the whole box again, and all the components, because there's just a incredibly large amount of stuff. Alright, well,
March on.
I'm kind of rambling. Let's go through the video game news. So, in the category of bold move, Cotton, let's see how it works out. Take-Two has claimed it has never tolerated harassment or discrimination. Inclusion, diversity, and common decency is paramount importance, says the CEO. I'm sure one would hope that Strelzelnik was asked these questions and then just offer this boldly, but even in that case, I think saying something like that is very, very dangerous, because you really are just inviting criticism. And this is Take-Two, publishers and makers of GTA, which their games certainly have allowed for a lot of harassment and bad behavior. So you really are being very bold in that kind of statement.
One step closer to victory.
And then you certainly have, off the top of my head, the Randy Pitchford problem with Take-Two. Because yeah, Randy Pitchford, well, he doesn't work for Take-Two. He owns Gearbox, or at least he did until Embracer Group acquired him. He worked very closely with Gearbox, and Randy Pitchford most definitely has done some bad behavior and harassed, and maybe not discrimination. Maybe there aren't any claims against discrimination.
I live to create a draconic paradise. Should have been clear.
I just think. So yeah, it's definitely a dangerous thing to say when staying silent would have cost you nothing, and we'll see if it plays out. But whatever. Destroying me with at least 5 attack. All right.
Take my blade of resentment.
And then see, moving on, Video Games Chronicle says Konami says that the Pro Evolution Soccer successor eFootball will basically be a demo, quote basically a demo at launch. The game will have only a limited number of teams on day one. And so here's Video Games Chronicle as I've set this up so far, and you'll probably see me try and grab little things I missed, so like that. Get rid of that line. Although getting rid of that line didn't really do anything. I'm on some of these sites finding gray bars and on top and bottom and on the sides. I have been able to get rid of the ones on the sides just by bringing in the margins on using a different plugin. But yeah, on the bottom there's one here that I just don't feel like I can get rid of. It's showing me this background image and I say create, but it doesn't really get rid of the background image. Yeah. And see, that's slightly annoying, but whatever. We've got it 90% of the way there. Otherwise, you were going to see me spend probably an hour today just cleaning up these tabs. Here, Video Game Chronicle says Streets of Rage's most famous move has been mistranslated for decades. Yuzo Koshihiro marks its 30th anniversary by saying Alexel's Grand Upper shouldn't be called that. Supposed to be called Grand Upper. What was it supposed to be called? Ground Upper. Oh, okay. So, mistranslation. I imagine there is a lot of cases like that where things are just mistranslated, and for a 30th anniversary, that's not a huge reveal by any means. We didn't get anywhere in that arena run, which is fine. Just keep on playing. Now that we can play rotation deck, which is newer than those unlimited decks we were playing. I suppose it is worth once again just showing though what this website looks like with absolutely no ad blocking on. With just turning off that one factor, you have a lot of stuff happening here.
To arms! There's a battle
And see,
underway.
oddly, this looks way better. My only real concern is this tweeter thing. Was that in? Like getting blocked? It is getting blocked. Well, I don't know if I can fix that or not. Hmm. Let's keep on playing. See.
I'll define a brighter future for everyone.
See if we can see if that fixes that. Sorry, going quiet there.
Someone as beautiful as her could never understand.
Yeah, I don't know what I specifically have blocked here that is making that one Twitter thing not show up. Twitter, cleaning up Twitter in particular is the biggest problem. This is not going well.
Got me feeling hungry.
So what I'm gonna do is just get back to where I was. And I'll have to work on that later.
Damn.
Well, I definitely didn't deserve that, but I just got a free victory. They gave me a challenge ticket.
General, we destroyed them.
And yeah, getting free victories by just boring the player. I will take that any day. Let's try not to bore my audience here. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. Xbox latest controller is the color changing Aqua Shift, which I guess changes in your hands with heat. They're not really changing much as far as the actual layout of the buttons or anything. They're just changing the colors and maybe the textures. The one thing I think they could have easily done at this point is had an 8-way adapter of some sort on the D-pad, because 4-way D-pads at this point are fairly unhelpful. Like, let's just be honest, not that many people are playing an Xbox Series S or Series X trying to play a 4-way arcade game. And so the 8-way on the Elite would be interesting. Some of the other features on the Elite should probably be integrated into a new controller, or they should just stop making the standard controllers and say we're giving you the Elites at the same price, which is, I think, the one thing they can't actually afford to do.
The uncharted desert awaits. Too slow.
So yeah, there's
The uncharted desert awaits.
there's continuously more of that happening. And I can't immediately complain about the fact that they are
What do we have here?
Are you
This
worth
is
your
what
weight
you-
in gold?
that they are making more colors. That's good design. Moving on, Video Game Chronicle says a secret PlayStation VR 2 specs look impressive. Digital Foundry claims unrivaled specs make it look even better than the leaked ones. Which, okay, I guess we need a PlayStation VR 2, but there is kind of a question about, is there that much of a game base compared to the PSVR 1, or has that always just been such a niche product that the second version of the game is going to still feel like mostly an iteration, just on the fact that there won't be that many games? And inherently, PlayStation making the PlayStation VR instead of Microsoft making the Microsoft VR is a very different experience, because if Microsoft is making a VR headset that was a cheaper middle tier VR headset, they would combine it with Game Pass. You would get one VR game every month. There would be some real push in that direction. And frankly, it'd probably be a bad thing, because then Microsoft would have some of the companies it's just acquired making VR versions of their games. And the PlayStation VR 2, I still don't think it's going to satisfy most people.
Are you ready for truth?
Best of luck to you.
Let's see.
Too slow.
Impressive.
Interesting. I didn't realize that was going to give me Storm. So, yeah. It seems like it's going to be 4,000 by 2080 pixels, so 2,000 by 240 per eye, which seems like high resolution until you realize how close those are going to be to your eyes. Some new controllers, maybe. I'll be interested in seeing it, just because it will be another implementation or increase of technology, but that's pretty much all I could be interested in.
Speed things up.
Look at that, they've got a victory. Just kind of a standard victory too. No trickery there, just get two with Storm on the field.
General, we destroyed them.
Wow, today could be potentially a shorter stream if we can just get through all the news. Like, because my daily quests, like, I need 2 more ranked wins, and that is that. Oh, I should say that I am right on the cusp of getting rid of the Nutaku adult game College Days on my phone. I haven't really been playing with it much, although I have been in the most recent event, and now the game is just crashing and crashing and won't load. I tried to delete the cache a couple times. I deleted the data. They've just put out a buggy version, and frankly, the last time there was an event, they put out a buggy version too. The past 3 updates have been buggy also, and frankly, there wasn't much of a game there. Anyways, it's a Simpsons tapped out clone with barely 30 naked sex scenes that take a lot of time to unlock, and that's over the course of a year plus of the game being out. There's just no content there. So yeah, I think I've had enough frustration on College Days, and yeah, that's pretty much, it seems like, the level of all the quality of Nutaku games, Nutaku being owned by Pornhub. Like, so my final verdict pretty much is that, yeah, the one storefront in the West that actually competes as far as adult games with Steam fails to deliver any real quality, and definitely tries to double and triple down on microtransactions and just wasting your time. Like, it definitely is built, all their games seem to be built around the idea of you getting very excited in the first few weeks and buying boosters and microtransactions very quickly before you realize that there's just no long-term content worth playing in them. Where if you compare that to Destiny Child, the Korean lewd game that doesn't have full sex scenes, although at one point they were getting dangerously close to that in one of the stories recently. And a lot of the lewd outfits lately are getting basically down to just being full nudity. The Destiny Child is way better of an experience. I've been playing it for probably 2 years straight, almost every single day. Like, having the automated dailies get done, which are, frankly, they've added so much to that is taking a lot of time up in my day. Just even starting the automations is taking a lot of time up. But yeah, Destiny Child's a great game. Kind of hard to recommend playing it now. You're going to have to do a lot of catch up, and I don't know if you're ever going to be able to get as many characters as the average player or get ahead of the curve. Like, I didn't start on day 1, and certainly I can feel that there are some things I will have missed because of that.
The dawn shines like a beacon of hope.
Alright.
One step closer to victory.
Dawn always prevails.
won't give 'em an inch.
Dawn is upon us.
Well, this sucks. I attack here, I die.
Blessed sunrise.
What is it you desire?
What do we have here?
I wait here, I guess. I guess there is also the benefit of playing Destiny Child that you can play the censored version and it be slightly censored compared to not playing the censored version, which is slightly uncensored. Although the differences aren't huge Anyways, back to regular video game news. Call of Duty Vanguard is coming to current and next generation consoles with a setting fans know and love, according to Activision. A new Call of Duty game is in development at Activision Mobile, so a unannounced mobile project. Another quick disconnect. Interesting. I really didn't change any of my network settings or anything. It seems like we're just getting disconnects more, which great. That is just great. I will take every disconnect and every easy victory I can get. Honestly, if I was making a collectible card game, I would on day one have bots designed to just disconnect and just say you win. Just increase that win ratio. You want to hit a 75, 80, 90% win ratio. There might be a better way to do that, certainly. You could have a star system where every victory gives you 3 stars and every loss takes away 1. That would work fine, particularly if your daily quests were just win 9 stars. Easy enough to do. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says Battlefield 2042 technical playtest dates and PC requirements have been revealed. So if you're really itching to know the tech specs, you can check out this article. I'm not going to bother with that. There we go. Another quick disconnect.
General,
Great.
we destroyed them.
Great. Let's get all the way up to B rank. Or yeah, why not? We will change nothing and go for another one. And see, if you have 2 disconnects in the same time, then that pretty much tells me that's the network server's problem, not mine. I don't know if you really even should be reporting on this, but Video Games Chronicle, and pretty much only Video Games Chronicle, says the Halo's iconic announcer speaks out in support of trans players. Jeff Steetson has been a multiplayer announcer in every Halo game to date. Let's see. It was asked to say trans rights in a personal message on Cameo. Instead, he left a 2-minute message in which he discussed his feelings on trans rights and details. Okay. And see, this is kind of the problem, I think, in general, with the idea of turning actors into activists. Like, should we care what some random employee at McDonald's thinks? Would people pay for a cameo of a McDonald's employee to talk about their opinion on any subject? The answer is pretty much no. But because this is an employee who worked on video games, we have been tricking ourselves or been tricked by video game journalism or video game developers to think that employees who work on a game are like special and that their opinions matter. We have seen this certainly way more prevalent as far as actors and musicians and TV personalities and news reporters, which frankly none of those opinions should matter to anybody. Like the kinds of people's opinions as far as any subject, and I'm just talking about this in general, I'm not even going to bother to say one way or the other as far as the message, talk about the message, because there's kind of no point. The problem, the only kind of people that you should be listening to on a subject are incredibly learned educated individuals, people who have experienced it themselves. So I suppose it would be more impactful if he said, I am transgendered, or I know someone directly who's transgendered, and I've been allowed to repeat his story. But honestly, at that point, he probably should just let the person themselves tell their story. But yeah, if somebody was a professor, if somebody studied it, if they've done deep, thoughtful insight and investigation in it, and it isn't just all, well, this is my feeling on it, or this is my personal experience on it,
No one gets past me.
that's the kind of person you should listen to. And then I would say also you should listen to policymakers, politicians, and such. It's different if the head of Microsoft comes out and says, I support this issue, which you probably would, because the head of Microsoft would be somebody in charge of a lot of people, and certainly making policy at Microsoft and affecting people's jobs. Whereas a narrator for Halo isn't really doing that.
Already a proper lady, you know.
So a story like this, in a lot of ways, is not news.
That's how you treat a lady.
Like you can say, yeah, I support this, and I think this is a good thing, certainly, but at the end of the day, it really is just not news. Somebody said something somewhere. Like, you could make even a better argument that, like, actors and musicians have more of a effect. I won't say relevance or anything like that, but at least the musicians have more of effect because they tend to drive public sentiment somewhat, but kinda they don't. So yeah, even that really doesn't make, it really isn't true.
Harder armor. Steel yourself.
I suppose, like, the way I'm saying this, Lil Nas X is kind of a great example. He being a gay artist himself and being able to express himself is a much better influence. But honestly, artists are so known for, musicians and artists are so known from working around and courting controversy that I don't know if they really even deserve people's attention. So yeah, that puts me definitely in a weird position. Like, I guess I should say I support rights for all people, including trans people, as a egalitarian. As much as I do support rights for everybody, at a certain point, with looking at the pandemic and stuff, some things that are rights maybe should just be not rights and taken away from everybody because they can't be trusted with it. The right to potentially hurt someone else has never been encased in any constitution I've ever heard of, but
Got a job to do.
let's see, I guess we keep that,
Loyalty is ironclad.
and then you
Die, cretin.
evolve that,
Yeah, I love this.
play that,
Speed things
Of
up.
course
evolve that one instead.
One step closer to victory.
There's no time for you slugs. Too slow.
Return.
Loyalty is ironclad.
Moving on, Video Games Chronicle, and these are all in order. That's why we're doing all the Video Games Chronicles right now. I could jump around a little bit here, maybe we should. It says Activision Blizzard has claimed how it has set it will set the example on how to handle harassment and discrimination. Kotick claims that leaders found to have impeded the integrity of the process. Leaders found to have impeded the integrity of our processes will be fired, which at a certain level that they have already basically fired the person in charge of Blizzard. Now let's get the narrative explained as I understand it a little bit better. Activision basically acquired Blizzard. Blizzard was the good company, Activision was the garbage company. Activision only seems to, over its tenure of owning Blizzard, seems to only have cared about making more and more profits and ruining beloved franchises of Blizzard's in the name of more profits. And now, through this controversy, which happened mostly during the era, if as I understand it, not all throughout the era of Activision Blizzard being a thing, and Activision Blizzard really is just Activision being in charge.
Too slow.
This and hit this, and then that doesn't help me because I needed to kill that. So the suspicion that I have heard around, and I have too, is that this might be the final blow to Blizzard, that they would just straight up drop the Blizzard name, they would fully acquire Blizzard, they would fire anyone who has ever worked in any high level of Blizzard, and replace them with just Activision people. There's gonna be a lot of these stories, certainly. Is the J. Allen Brack, who announced he would be leaving the company, so basically fired, as much as any CEO actually gets fired. Meanwhile, the main complaint has always been that Kotick has been using Activision Blizzard to funnel as much money into his own pocket through extremely excessive compensation for being the CEO, and I suspect that is still going to happen even as the walls burn around him. At a certain level, it would be kind of nice if we did have a point in which Activision and Blizzard went bankrupt and then their assets got sold off and different companies acquired those assets, and then there was room for reboots, room for improvements. I don't think that it's going to happen that way. I think Bobby Kotick would sell it off to companies like Tencent or something like that, and then it would just, or EA or something, and it would just become a worse company owns these IPs and does nothing good with them.
Too slow.
Moving on to the Gematsu articles. No More Heroes 3 has 30 minutes of gameplay, if you're interested in that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get rid of... Oh, can I get rid of the icon? That was the one thing I wanted to get rid of. Nope. Block quote. Seems to all just be a picture. Interesting. Trying to just get this quotation mark, which isn't even a quotation mark. Let's see. Get rid of that. That's not too bad. So mostly Gematsu, I think, has been cleaned up. Yeah. A lot of these do seem to love to put a little bit of emptiness at the bottom of the screen, but that's not too bad. I'm also wondering if the minimal scroll bar is not working, because it doesn't.
Let's speed things up.
I think it is working. I think it just kind of looks different to me now all of a sudden. One of the things that the Chrome update, I think, is going towards or has gone to
Too slow.
is just assuming HTTPS connections, which frankly it had been trying that for a long time, and for most websites for a long time HTTPS connections have been the standard, the secure encrypted connections, although the level of security on HTTPS isn't really that great. But depending on how that got implemented, I think there's still a decent number of websites that might be frustrating if you visit one specific website and they just have not gone to HTTPS. I don't know why anybody wouldn't. It is super easy to do, and there's really no reason to not implement that other than the fact that you're being incredibly cheap and not paying for a certificate which costs very minimal amount of money if you're running any kind of website. That being said, it does highlight a factor that people probably don't consider, is that the internet originally was a place where you could potentially have a website that didn't cost you that much and could last forever. And by potentially allowing domain registration to go up in a cost, which it has over the years, and allowing encryption certificates to be required, which increases the cost. If I personally, as an individual, wanted to run my own website, in the old days, you could probably get that for free if it's less than a few megabytes, and your own little homepage. Nobody's really done homepages anymore. It's all become this. You've got to make your homepage a Twitter page or a Facebook page or something along those lines. And so capitalism on a certain level has completely corrupted the internet, which was once more of a place for freedom, or for the free exchange of information at minimal expense. And that this is extra hosting style costs that have just been added as extra fees. For a good reason. Security is good, but yeah, it has created the ever-increasing level of ads on websites where, like, you can't go to Facebook and have your host a Facebook page and not have Facebook shove ads in front of your face. You can't for free host a homepage of any realistic modern size and not have it shove ads in front of you. You can't even half the time have a internet service that is not trying to shove ads into your browsing history if they can get away with it. Anyways, like, we need to hurry up. Here we have a game on Steam called UFO KO Tower Defense, which is just a garbage tower defense game. I'm scrolling down here just to make sure there wasn't something I wanted to block. I don't think there really is on Steam. Like, there's a couple things on Steam I blocked, but that's pretty much it. There's fairly large gap at the bottom of the screen here. Yeah. Footer spacer, we can get rid of that. And that can save us some space. Yeah. But yeah. There's basically one thing that uBlock Origin is blocking. It says on this tab, or maybe one domain. Whereas, yeah, and that heavily comes down to the fact that if you are on Steam, you are shopping, and if you are shopping, then you expect to see Steam ads.
Is that how you treat a lady?
Moving on, we have On Scene, The Horror Stories of Fred and Karen, which I think we may have already talked about this game. Little dark screenshot syndrome. Early access, 59 cents. Nothing of interest there.
System interface subroutine.
Here we have a game called Devil It's Me, which is tagged as a management strategy sim game. Still not having images load. So it's like a tiny tower game with monsters in your castle. We've seen this done before, and it doesn't look particularly interesting. $8.99 English, Korean, and Chinese. That's far too expensive for what it's offering. Let's do this.
Like a beast from the board.
Can't evolve.
You're weak.
Here we have a game on Steam called Protect Eggs, which just looks like a Chinese game. It's slightly pretty, but looking at the screenshots, it doesn't look like there's much going on here. They're calling it a leisure game. $9.99, bunch of languages. No to that. Here we have a game on Steam called Light Infantry, which looks kind of like a Game Boy style inspired game of no interest. Looks like it's a platformer mostly. English not supported, $8.99, Japanese only. Is there any way to win here? I mean, you can play this.
I love you.
Alright, and then if you could evolve. You could do that.
Already a proper lady, you know.
Do that.
Too slow.
But yeah, I don't think that wins for me. Here we have a game on Steam, Color by Number, Medieval Portrait, which is, these are obviously just pre-bought images, but they are consistent. It's one pack of pre-bought images. That being said, the actual color by number system doesn't look particularly that great. I'm not sure color by number ever would interest me. $1.59, English only. I would argue there's actually not enough pictures and not enough variety for a game like this. Let's see. Gametsu has an article. Yuru killed the Culmination Games Sengoku's Shinju trailer. First in a series of character trailers. I've not heard anything about this game so far. it's somebody with some kind of electronic necklace, which we've seen that before. Maybe it's not an electronic necklace. It looks like it's a shoot 'em up game. Yeah. So I don't even know if it really matters doing character reveals for a shoot 'em up game that much. Yeah, it's a shoot 'em up. Let's see. Which inherently that means I will forget about it very quickly. Let's see. The Xbox Game Pass adds Dodgeball Academia, Katamari Damacy Reroll, Luminous, Remastered, Hades, and more in early access in early August. If I can read the word right. Let's see. Curse of the Dead Gods coming August 5th also. Skate and Skate 3 and Starmancer. On 12th you get Art of Rally. On the 13th you get Hades. On the 17th, you get the Microsoft Solitaire Collection Premium Edition, which, you know, that's even more ridiculous because that's a PC-only game that should have been free in the first place. And it's just really a depiction of one of the many, many problems around the Microsoft software store. Which there was a story I definitely heard about this week. I can't really attribute it, talking about how there's some major features that just don't work with the Microsoft Store style programs compared to the exact same games on Steam, because of the way the Universal Windows Platform programs, UWPs, work, or I think you might more accurately describe them as they don't work.
Too slow.
Yeah, and it's just kind of ridiculous to try and have Microsoft build a walled garden. Dirt 4, Dirt Rally, Dirt 2, FIFA 2020, and Grid are, I believe, all leaving. Or, no, they're coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate starting August 10th. And some downloadable content for Age of Empires, Gear 5, Dead by Daylight, Rainbow Six Siege, Sniper Elite, and Zombie Armor. Forza Motorsport 7 is leaving the game store and the Game Pass on September 15th. And oddly, this is a weird situation where if you bought DLC for Forza Motorsport 7 because you got the game for free on Games Pass, they're giving you a free copy of Forza Motorsport 7. It also now would be the only time to buy Forza Motorsport 7 if you wanted to buy it. I don't know if you really want to buy it. Also, you're kind of in a weird situation in general because this is there is no Forza Motorsport 8 out at this point, and they're just removing the game because of licensing issues, which that definitely makes it hard to want to jump on the idea of playing any of the motorsports games. Like I think pretty much you have a high chance, I haven't really investigated it, that after September 15th there will be no way to play any motorsport game at all if you haven't already purchased one.
You crusty horseshoe.
See.
We won't give him an inch.
Do we want to evolve this? Do we want to evolve this?
March on! Just try to...
Hit that one.
Talk more later.
Hit that one, hit that one,
Got to roam in
hit
style.
that one. In the turn. See, also some ultimate perks, Apex Legend, Fantasy Star Online, bonus, and Rogue Company, and Game Pass Quests are now a thing where you can play The Evil Within, Battlefront 2, and Fallout 4. Leaving on the 8th is GTA 5 for cloud and console. On the 15th is Ape Out, Crossing Souls, Darksiders Genesis, Don't Starve, Final Fantasy 7, and Train Sim World. What's funny about this list is I remember announcing when these games came out, and so it has gone full circle
I need more beer.
in my mind. Okay. I save this one. I save this one. And then I save this one. If I hit this one, I could then evolve this one. I mean, I could hit this one and then do a little less damage.
That creepy.
I'm home. My loyalty is ironclad.
So if he can't kill this, I pretty much win. Here we have a game on Steam called Ruins of Avalon, which looks to be like it's a 1990s style match 3 type game. Seems you spin groups of ruins around. Seems slightly different than your standard match 3 game. It's English only. It's $5.39, which is a little expensive. It's being published by HH Games. So I wonder, is there a Ruins of Avalon 1 on Steam? There's some other games that are match 3 games. And honestly, if you're looking at this list of games from HH Games, it kind of is highlighting an issue, certainly, that should be highlighted. As far as just all they need to do is sell basically the same game over and over again and give it a different, unique name, and it might catch a new audience's attention. Yeah, there is no Ruins of Avalon listing here. Is this evolved? Good.
Are you ready for truth? Very well. He's feeling hungry.
Did you send this breeze?
So next game we have on Steam is just a bunch of Asian letters, and looks like it's a 3D RPG experience of no real interest. 99 cents, Chinese only. I have no idea what they did to defeat me there, but not super surprised. Next we have a game on Steam called Spider Punks, which looks like it's a spider shoot 'em up, which is an odd combination of games. Honestly, I don't think any game where you play as a spider is really going to work well because there's just too many people with arachnophobia. $8.99, English full audio. It's kind of hard to also relate to a spider character, unless you're just going to anthropomorphize it and make the spider look very human or very cute. There's a short clip spider animation that airs on YouTube and has just actually gotten a deal to air on Cartoon Network. But like every month that little spider was drawn very cutesy and to make a 2-minute video, and that was it. Like, and the only way I think that little spider animation even succeeds is that it had a big enough fan base to support him through Kickstarter or whatever. I imagine that's how that was working. But that's about the only spider depiction I've ever seen that even makes sense, short of like the spider in Charlotte's Web, which that was decades ago.
Let's speed things up.
I should have probably played that.
No one gets past me. Too slow. Too slow.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Plumber 2, which looks like a pipes game. So my main question here would be, where's Plumber 1? Otherwise, this looks like this might be good enough to deserve a follow. $4.79 though is asking quite a lot. And then, interesting, this developer's name is Free Anywhere. Plumber 1 not listed as a game on Steam. Yeah, I think this is too much of a mobile game with the stars and the levels and the timer. And frankly, I just don't think I'd ever actually play one of these games.
I go with the wind.
Alright, let's hit that.
Feeling hungry.
Too slow.
That one,
No one gets
that
past
one,
me. Too slow.
and that one. Here we have a game on Steam called Svobodia 1945 Liberation. I have no idea how you'd actually pronounce that, but it seems like a full motion video, or at least in part. The tagging is visual novel, but honestly it seems to be maybe more of a collection of puzzles, point and click adventure type experiences. I guess not point and clicking. It's a Czech village. There is a danger certainly that this just has a deeply political message here that I wouldn't understand, or that is just completely inaccurate and full of propaganda. $14.39, English and Czech. I guess we'll put it on the follow list and see what the reviews have to say. I wouldn't be surprised if there's just a case of it not being relevant enough. Anyways.
No one gets past
Do we
me.
want to save ourselves, or do we want to do 2 more damage? I think we save
Too
ourselves.
slow.
We're together forever.
Let's see. Art of Rally for the Xbox Series, Xbox One, and Switch launches August 12th, according to Gametsu. Which Art of Rally is kind of more of the soft shell animation instead of hyper realistic animation. I wouldn't be surprised if the developers of something like Forza Motorsport would like to just make a game that is more animated like this, so they don't have to license specific cars and models and images of cars. Particularly in the middle of this whole pandemic, I could see a case where there's just not that many new car models coming out to justify getting the skins in a video game, and there may just be a general waning of interest in cars anyways.
Loyalty is ironclad. March on.
So yeah, I could definitely see
Harder.
a whole new
Steel yourself.
way in which things are done
Loyalty is ironclad.
as far as how the funding and how the development of racing games go. Gametsu says Wreckfest X Carmageddon collaboration has been announced, which, okay. I feel like Carmageddon is a really old game, where Wreckfest is slightly newer. And I don't know if this really means that there's gonna be too much of a collaboration here. 2 new free tracks and a car. Seems like Carmageddon also intentionally puts like flat 2D zombie characters that you're running over to not make it be hyper realistic and off-putting.
I need more fear, more terror.
Got a job to do.
Okay.
Die, cretin.
That's enough.
Loyalty is ironclad. One step closer to victory.
Still think I can win here.
Steel yourself.
That's enough.
Loyalty is ironclad.
We're together forever.
Let's see. Witch Spring 3 Refine, the story of Irudi, launches August 13th in the West. First launched in December of 2020 in Japan. This is the first I've heard of this game, and I assume that there would be 2 other Witch Spring games. See, it's coming to the Switch, so I would have to suspect that this is a mostly shovelware game. I don't recognize the publisher. It's apparently a witch raising simulator, so maybe it's something along the lines of a Princess Maker style clone, which that might work, it might not.
Good folk for this town is good folk for breakfast. Hands up! We're together forever.
Here we have a game on Steam called Here Comes Nico. Nico being the Japanese word for cat. 3D platformer for tired people. You play Nico traveling across scenic islands, make new friends, catch fish, solve puzzles, snag bugs, and more. Seems to have some kind of Tamagotchi that you can play with too. I like the Paper Mario style animation going on here. It's being published by Gears for Breakfast, which is a publisher. I recognize that name. $24.99 is a massive expense though. English and full Japanese. So I'm gonna put it on the follow list, but we need to figure out what else did Gears for Breakfast publish. They published A Hat in Time. That's why I recognize it. And I don't know Frog Vibes. Yeah, Frog Vibes I don't believe is the makers of A Hat in Time. In all fairness though, A Hat in Time was not something that I totally loved either.
Abide.
The uncharted desert awaits.
So yeah, that's an interesting surprise certainly, to have a game like that come out and not have any real advertisement for it. But I think that also makes me question whether or not it's actually good quality.
Enemy or no, you did good.
Man, I just got wrecked there. So much for hoping to make it to the B rank. I guess at this point there's no reason to not move towards maybe some different variety in decks and try to play ones that we think might win. Here we have a game on Steam called The Ramp, which looks to me like it is somewhat of a skating game. Although, if I recall correctly on the Giant Bomb cast, and I should talk about Giant Bomb for a brief second in a minute, I believe you have to kind of control the up and down force a little bit more to get a good flow. I don't know if there really is even any tricks in this game. It is just about having a controller equivalent of leaning into a downward motion and leaning out of an upward motion to gain as much momentum as possible. $4.79, bunch of languages. I'll put this on the follow list. It's very possible that a game like this, even though it's rated very positively already, I probably should just put it on the wish list. It's very possible that a game like this, your enjoyment will significantly vary based on whether or not you've skateboarded or not, and whether you know what the flow is, and you know that feeling, and whether you think the game is actually doing a good job of representing that feeling. So as far as Giant Bomb, the Bombcast is still happening. I'm still stupidly wasting time listening to it. Although I am moving further and further away from using RSS feeds to listen to podcasts, and I'm just straight up using the double speed of YouTube Advanced to watch the same podcast on YouTube without ads. Of course, there are significant advantages, and I think I could play the podcast at double speed on the old version of Beyond Pod that I'm still using from several years ago, before they redid the interface and ruined it. And in general, I'm still looking at a lot of RSS feeds. I'm just not ever finding time where I'm sitting down and saying, I want to listen to a podcast, and not just let YouTube handle that. Regardless, yeah, Giant Bombcast is mostly going on the way it normally has, although it does seem like they're bringing in some of the cliches from Giant Bomb East of just kind of busting the balls of the new guy in charge. And the new guy in charge from CNET is definitely seeming a lot more like he's in charge now. He is all of a sudden in this week really stepped up to say, yeah, I'm in charge of this. I'm gonna be present to announce all of these new shows, and that's what they're doing. From the outside in, it seems like they are completely changing what Giant Bomb is. They still will probably have the Bombcast and talk about video games there, but they have brought in a lot more people than I thought they were going to, or at least they brought in a lot more people all at once. And it seems like they scheduled everything to happen at the same time. And they've announced 2, maybe 3 new shows, none of which have anything to do with video games. Like one of the shows is talking about covering the first season of Power Rangers. One of the shows is talking about albums, music albums. One of the shows is talking about internet memes. I think that's the 3 shows they've announced. Which, in all fairness, I guess maybe they did realize that there was no reason to have a Bombcast and a Beastcast talking about the exact same thing. And that's why the Beastcast and all of the employees at the Beastcast are now doing their own video game coverage on a website called Nextlander. But I guess the thought that they got, or the feeling that they got, is that Giant Bomb is getting totally shifted away from being video games, which, how is this not the scenario that we've already seen with Tech TV being forced to being put into G4 Tech TV than just G4, at which they tried to convert all of the Tech TV audience over to watching G4. They did at some point establish some level of audience at G4 for gamers, and then they tried to shift all of those audiences from G4 into fans of cops and cheaters, and that's pretty much the end of G4, ignoring the fact that there is now a YouTube channel called G4 that has re-emerged.
You're done for.
The thing about TV and the
Son of a gun, ain't you?
cable, extended cable in general, is that they always are looking for that bigger audience. There must be infinite growth, never stagnant viewership, never loss of viewership. And if they are going to have stagnant or a loss of viewership, then they're immediately going to cut the cost as far as any investments of new content.
Stop!
Now, Giant Bomb being apparently just shifted into a conglomeration of random stuff. Like, there really is no theme around it to get a bigger audience. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't feel like you're going to get a bigger audience. It doesn't feel like there's cross communication. If I'm a big fan of video games, I may be a big fan of Power Rangers, but probably not that big of a fan of Power Rangers. If I'm a big fan of Power Rangers, there's no real crossover for video games. There's like one good Power Rangers game that I can even think of, and it's just a fighting game, Battle for the Grid. So I don't think they even know what they're doing. It sounds like just blatant, insane incompetence here, an insane desire for growth. Now, at some point, can Giant Bomb do what G4 did and just be all about cops reruns?
Son of a gun, ain't you?
It's harder, certainly. It's harder to pull it off. Nobody's gonna pay for a premium membership at Giant Bomb to just see the old content of Giant Bomb, an old Bombcast. It's not that valuable of content the week after it's aired.
See you around, Slick.
Even if they were to just fire everybody and make it a stagnant website. And I kind of have to feel bad for the guy who technically is in charge of Giant Bomb basically being put under a new guy and having a kid and being kind of stuck needing a job for healthcare and needing a job to stay in California, which I think he is probably working very hard to move out of California and probably quit the job. And I definitely would believe that Nextlander becomes the new Giant Bomb, but I don't know if a new Giant Bomb really even matters. Like, they haven't been great in a long time, certainly. Suppose there's some things that you could say you're happy about it. It doesn't look like Giant Bomb is getting shifted over to being like an ultra woke concept or an ultra anti-gamergate website. It doesn't seem like they're trying to be a general news site. They're still trying to be more of an entertainment thing where it's the personalities of the people, but the people that are left don't really have personalities, and bringing in new people that might have interesting personalities was probably a good move, but then hamstringing them to pitches and things that podcasts that just won't work and won't last that long seems really ridiculous. So yeah, it does not look good for Giant Bomb. It definitely seems like they are very close to the jumping the shark point, or they've at this point jumped the shark. I don't imagine there's much you can turn around here as far as video game coverage. Like, which really, that's what they should have done, is they should have just doubled down on covering older video games. There's plenty of video games still for them to cover and talk about if they would just play games and talk about them. Whereas they all don't want to play video games, and they all suck at playing video games, it seems.
Hostile unit confirmed.
And Adam Sessler, I didn't watch this video from G4, but he put out a kind of speech, kind of article talking about how Microsoft said that if you beat the game on any difficulty, that's good enough. Talking about the whole get good mentality. Which honestly, the whole get good mentality was something made up by the creators of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls, advertisers, and it was never something that was immediately created and thought by gamers. Like even the Gamer Bros, I don't think really cared if people were particularly bad at a video game. We'll hold on to that for later.
I'll protect you with everything I've done.
So yeah. It doesn't look good for Giant Bomb, but also it doesn't look good for those people. Same thing is kind of true for Tested. I used to watch Tested like crazy, but once the Will Smith, not the actor, left Tested to basically attempt to make a VR website that didn't go anywhere. I guess he's still working on that. But yeah, once Will Smith disappeared, Norman Chan and the other people who were kind of brought in, and Adam Sessler basically turning it into his own, not Adam Sessler, who am I thinking of? One of the Mythbusters characters basically bought Tested.com. And that kind of wrecked it and became his own website. You see, that's kind of another example. I guess that's probably a better internet example of a company buying Tested.com and then just trying to get a bigger audience by then throwing in a big name and changing the content somewhat drastically. Not hugely drastically, but yeah. But it has been years since I've wanted to listen to anything they say, because they're boring, and frankly it's just not been a good time for gadgets in about 10 years anyway, so the idea of testing new gadgets is way less interesting. Anyways, I'm rambling, and we have no reason not to just hurry through here. Here we have a game called Rocket Rumble, which seems to be a racing game with robots or people with jetpacks, animals with jetpacks. Early access, $8.99, says it has single player. I think that's probably as good as it's going to get as far as a follow, so we'll give it a follow. Let's see. According to Nikometsu, Nacon has acquired the session developer Creature Studios. Session, I believe, is a racing game. The publisher hopes to become a leader in AA video games by 2023, embracing the idea of AA video games. And I'm gonna do this,
And lies.
and then nope, that was not the card I thought I needed. Hit this.
To die
And hit
or
this.
not to die.
Let's see. Zhonyan Sword 7 for PS4 and Xbox One launches in September for the West, according to Gematsu.
You're in good hands.
Omen of Sorrow for Xbox One launches in September. It's a little dark, but this looks interesting. Why am I not seeing any videos? It's a horror-themed fighting game. Did I block videos? No, I just don't think there are any videos on these tabs. Guess we'll play this to kill that.
Today was a right good day.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna die. Kill more 5 characters, so we'll play that. The Street Fighter Champion Edition Summer 2021 update came and went. I don't think there's really any news specifically to that, but Street Fighter V Champion Edition DLC character Oro and Akira Kazama launch August 16th. Newcomer Luke launches in November. I guess this is Luke. This is Oro. And let's see, what else? Several different fighting moves being shown here from Oro. Here's Akira Kazama, which I assume is this guy, not this guy.
You're in good hands.
Or that girl. I don't know. It's a girl? Yeah, I think Akira's a girl. Yeah, and here's a video, so. Yeah, there's a girl. So I guess that was just a case that Gematsu really didn't have that many videos to show. Because there's lots of screenshots and lots of videos being shown for this game. See, this guy's just a boxer. Which, if anything, I think this points out that the Street Fighter concept A, fails when you put it in a boxing ring because you're no longer street fighting, and B, fails if you're trying to do something like boxing, because that is not boxing by any means. That's not MMA or anything like that. It is just magic fist flying, doing as much damage as possible.
Thy little canary.
I can play this on the next turn. Or I could play this if I had 8. I messed up by not playing that first. Yeah. So more content for Street Fighter V. Let's see. Gematsu says NIS Software has announced a time loop investigation adventure game called Asasugutori for the PS4 and Switch. Go back in time to prevent girls from dying. We've heard stories similar to that before. Certainly. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Go Blaster, which is just a shoot 'em up game for free, English only. I guess the price is right, at least. 2 damage to all enemy followers. Summon that. Guess you do this? guess you fuse this. And then guess you do this.
Everything was a lie.
Do we want to save ourselves some? Or I don't think you need to. I think you just do that. Then
Sleep.
we want to save one evolve for this. Here we have a game on Steam called My Time Alive, which looks like it's an asset flip first-person shooter game. No interest. $2.69, English only. Smooth scrolling, still haven't done anything with. Here we have a game called FM45 Sprite Man Adventures, which looks like nothing. 99 cents, English only. Here we have a game called Valor, which looks like nothing. Asset flip, free to play. I guess the price is better there. Online PvP, third party EULA.
Just gratitude.
Here we have a game called Schwip, which looks like it's a Asteroids clone. I will give this some credit that this does look like it is better thought out and more polished as far as gameplay mechanics than most Asteroids clone games. Seems like you have a tail that you have to whip in a circle to attack people. $6.79, however, is way too expensive for my taste for that style of game. English only. Part of the problem, of course, is I just don't want I don't want to play those kinds of games anyways. So that got me where I needed to be. Here we have a game on Steam that's all in Asian characters. It looks like a cell phone game, Chinese MMO, RPG. Early access, Chinese only. Here we have Super Raft Boat VR, which seems like you're on a raft, but you're shooting monsters. Yeah, they managed to kill me. It's a shame. Honestly, it may just be better to stick with Swordcraft. Gamatsu has the Famitsu review scores for issue 1706. Dirt 5 getting 33 out of 40. Fuga Melodies of Steel getting 34 out of 40. And Yuoni getting 29 out of 40. So not great reviews. I believe this one is Fuga Melodies of Steel. I kind of had hoped that that would have been a better received game, but it wasn't getting particularly pushed or advertised, so my suspicion would be that it wasn't going to be particularly that good. Also, PlayStation 5 shipments have topped 10.1 million, and PS4 have topped 116 million. So, you know, if the PS4 has topped 116 million units, then I suppose if you've got 50 million player base or people who have tried out your game, you're doing really, really good. That being said, it does seem like some games are listed on enough of a variety of platforms and consoles that they do get up into the tens and 20s of millions as far as their potential player base or people who've played the game. Also, if it's like a free-to-play cell phone game, then those numbers could be way higher. Let's see. Let's just play that. I think we may have already talked about this, but Death End Request 2 for Switch launches August 19th in Japan. Western release not due out until 2022. Maybe what we reported previously was that Death's End Request 1 was coming out in the West. That would make some sense. Certainly, is that they are staggering the releases. Which I'm a little surprised we don't see more of that, frankly, for small Japanese companies to just stagger the release and make it come out at different times. Guess that's all we want to do, unless I want to play this to kill this.
No one gets past me.
Which, sure, we'll play that to kill that.
I like. Give me that.
Here we have a game on Steam called Hexagon World, which just looks like a Hexagon game of no interest. $5.99 English only. Here we have a game called Secret of the Rindrasha Blade, Chapter 1 and 2, which looks like it's an 8-bit RPG of no interest. $4.99 English only. Here we have a game called Beached, which looks like it's probably an asset flip game. It looks kind of pretty, but then you look at the UI and the soft cell CG, and yeah, it's just a standard asset flip survival game. Early access, free to play, online PvP, English only. I doubt we'll see any real embracing of that. Okay, so this one. Well,
That's too bad.
Give me that.
let's see. Komatsu has Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin version 1.20 update trailer and details. We're starting to see far too many instances of things getting updates, even if they are. Like, this doesn't, to me, look like a cell phone game by any means, but maybe it is. Maybe it's just got really nice attack animations that get very repetitive. But it doesn't really look like that to me. No, it's on Switch and PC via Steam. So it's not a cell phone game. But we are definitely running into scenarios where the games are kind of just staying
Save yourselves.
Constantly getting updates and making it hard to make a decision as far as when you actually would want to play this. A horror adventure game called Last Light has been announced for PC and Switch, due out August 26th on PC, according to Komatsu. It's on Steam, so you should probably just jump over to the Steam page. Probably be easier. Honestly, it might be easier to watch the trailers on Komatsu, but actually the videos tend to load fairly quickly on Komatsu. It's when you start getting at these images. Maybe that's the issue, certainly, is that there are sometimes we look at a game on Steam and the video autoplays. So maybe if I just stopped videos from autoplaying, then that would save me some time. This animation style is very different. I've seen sort of some horror games that sort of look like this. The chibi kind of Western art style. It's chibi in that it's anatomically small, but it's more Western with like big eyes, like that painting artist lady. So yeah, it kind of has that big eyes feel, but not quite to that point. So there's definitely something off-putting and creepy about this that makes it a good candidate for a horror game. Japanese full audio. I'm gonna prematurely put this on the follow list because I think it deserves a look. Alright, I'm gonna have to move really fast here.
Got a job. I'm home.
Loyalty is ironclad.
Yeah, I didn't move fast as I should have there. I could have gotten off another attack. They're trying to draw cards for some reason. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania adds Beat from Jet Set Radio. So, yeah. I imagine we'll see several other Sega characters showing up in Banana Mania. That would help advertise the game, certainly. It's just constantly drawing cards to get to one. Here we have a game on Steam called Power and Revolution 2021 edition. It's a 4X sandbox game, politically focused. There might be something interesting on that. Here you have a slightly chubby-faced Hillary Clinton style character. $49.99 is asking a lot though. English and French full audio, but not Italian full audio, but also German and Spanish full audio, but not any of the other languages full audio. Well, that seems like almost realistic truthful advertising here. I'm going to put this on the fall list. I suspect it being politically focused, I won't really have much of an interest in it because it will be somewhat limited in time in which it would be relevant.
March on!
Go ahead and just evolve this guy because I didn't pull off what I was hoping to pull off there. Next we have a game on Steam called Bully Ball, which looks like a extremely low polygon, low effort game. Early access, VR for $1.69, English only. Way too cheap for VR. What is this?
Enemy or no, you did good.
Yeah, I keep thinking that I might be close to the end, but I'm not sure how close I really am. Like, if anything has taught me anything, I should expect there to be another hour of content that I still need to go through, but I don't know. Here we have a game on Steam called Cat Attack. It's one of these shooting upward games, although it might be more keeping the ball up in the air. Like, because you see these, like, fish things that you're balancing. The fish bones, but they seem to bounce on the ground and explode, so there's a weird craziness, and that's part of the problem. Is it gets very colorful and blurry when these fish bones seem to hit the ground and explode, which I think would be just headache inducing. This is $2.99 English only. I think I'm gonna have to say no to it. Even more practically, it is just a one screen shoot 'em up game, for lack of a better descriptor. Next we have a game on Steam here called Rings of Hell, which seems like it might be some kind of, well, they're calling it an adventure RPG game. To me it looks like it might be a wrestling game, but I don't think it is. It's free, which is weird. Is it a student project? indie development of 7 graduate students from the Florida Entertainment Academy. Okay, it's a student project, so for that reason I'll put it on the follow list. And it's a shame that this kind of looks like an interesting game if you were to try and make a bigger experience here of a devil run wrestling hell that feels a lot like a Persona game, which might be the best descriptor to use.
General,
Here we have a game called Super Cosmojet, which just looks like an Asteroids clone. $4.99 English only. They're comparing it to Dead Space. Here we have one that's all Asian letters. It looks to me like it's a simple Chinese game, adventure game. Probably the best descriptor. $1.19, Chinese only. Here we have a game called Sinkei, which sci-fi adventure with shooter and puzzle elements. It says, I think it's an asset flip game. Did this start playing? Yeah. I think I've figured this out. When you have like 2 videos auto playing that sucks all the bandwidth from Steam, and then it doesn't try to load any of these images until it's reset. Yeah, looking at these though, yeah, this is an asset flip garbage game. Some of this like Chinese communist propaganda imagery might be interesting to see in a game if used properly, but I don't even know if modern China
I guess you're looking
does
for a fight.
the whole Chinese propaganda stuff. They've become much more subtle, and I don't know, maybe this isn't Chinese. I don't know why I thought this was Chinese. Apologies. This is Stalin. This is old Russian propaganda imagery. Again, same thing though. Oh, I know why I thought Chinese, because here's the old Chinese communist leader right next to Stalin. Yeah, this game is $2.99, several languages. Some of that iconic imagery certainly could be used. If anything, I would argue that games like Control kind of failed to properly use the brutalist architectural design as well as it could have, and that became far too much of a selling point when really all it was just a lazy way to design offices. Where I would say communist architecture design in particular, being extremely procedural and generic, is better shown from the outside than the inside. Almost any interior built room can look fairly generic if you're lazy about designing it, but the outside's looking generic is way more striking. Let's see what we want to do. I guess we'll do that. Let's see. According to Gametsu, the Indie House's Direct Indie Game Showcase has been set for August 31st. This is a collaboration between Akapara Games, never heard of it, Fellow Traveler, Neon Doctrine, Raw Fury, those awesome guys, Togi Productions, and Whitehorn Games. I have not heard of any of these developers at all. That being said, I guess that means they're really indie and not perhaps the elite indies that sometimes get overly promoted by mainstream video game journalism. Yeah, it sure would be nice if at some point in the future there were just so many more indie games journalists out there that the phrase mainstream video game journalism loses all of its meaning. At a certain point, we're getting to that. Like, if if you have Jason Schreier and Bloomberg News being the only person that's actually reporting, and you see people like Polygon and Kotaku and other websites, Giant Bomb even, all disappear, there really would barely be any video game journalists left. And it's not like game publishers need video game journalists that much. They can manipulate YouTubers just as well, if not better.
Are you ready for truth?
Stay away from me.
What is this? Covenant Mage. Covenant Mage. So maybe we'll get some
I'll define a brighter future for everyone.
some new announcements for indie games. Gametsu says X-Zeus, the complete collection, has been announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. I don't recognize a game called X-Zeus though. It looks like it's some kind of mecha game.
Are you looking, Dad?
It doesn't look like much. An on-rails shooter. I might be willing to give this a try as a distant Star Fox clone, Robotech clone type game.
Quartzes come in every shade imaginable.
Let's see. Kometsu has an article here. A game called Zool Redimensioned has been announced for PC. This was an Amiga classic, quote-unquote, action platformer coming out in August. I have never heard of this, but then again, I did not play Amiga games, and so it very well may have been a classic for Amiga games. That whole first generation and second generation of consoles before the NES are beyond me. And most of those first and second generation games were terrible and they just don't have any relevancy. This doesn't look terrible as a remaster, but it also doesn't like really address a modern gameplay style. So this feels a lot like a Sonic game. Guess we have to do this, don't we?
More fear, more terror.
Alright, well. And we keep that one, and that one.
An opportunity for growth.
And we killed that one.
An opportunity for growth.
Then we killed that one.
Opportunity for growth.
See, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Netmarble has acquired the SpinX games for $2.19 billion to expand into social casino genre.
You let go of my hand.
And we can see
Now you'll pay.
Gamma Sutra seems to look fine. Same article twice. That's pretty bad. Tencent is going to impose new restrictions on online gaming that have been branded as spiritual opium. This is being translated from Chinese, obviously, in China. Which I'm sure the government put some pressure on them to do that. Shortly after this article, an announcement was made by Tencent. 60 billion was wiped off Tencent's market capitalization during early trading, which, yeah, the stock markets are basically just fake money at this point, particularly in other countries, I would imagine. But yeah, that doesn't seem like and there's a direct description as to what things labeled as spiritual opium
Is fighting and despair all
I guess
you know?
the idea is they're saying all game is a spiritual opium, and in the sense that it is online gaming is addictive and a drug, and so Tencent is going to impose new restrictions on all online gaming. Okay, that makes more sense. I was thinking there was a specific category of games that were self-labeling themselves as spiritual opium. Okay, well, that definitely makes more sense. Yep, Tencent and the Chinese online gaming issue is going to consistently be a problem. Or it's probably at least 50% a made-up problem by the Chinese government. It's not like I think Chinese kids have a lot of other things to do. I don't think they have the ability to go outside and play because of just pandemic and overcrowded reasons and smog reasons. I don't think there's a ton of like parks and forests in most places in China for kids to go outside and play, and I don't think kids these days really want to do that. I don't think they have robust movie, music, and books and entertainment otherwise, and so it's not surprising that they would want to play video games. Same as everywhere else in the world where kids want to play video games as much as possible. And really, China's approach with kids playing games has been 100% the stick and 0% the carrot. Whereas I think they could probably build a whole lot of soccer fields and a whole lot of places for people to play sports and do more physical things and do different things if they didn't say no to everything. China is kind of the abusive parent that just wants to make the wife and the kids miserable at all times and are just saying no to everything for no real reason. Which sadly there are some parents that are very much like that, and they're not telling people no for any good reason, just because they like saying no and like being in control. Big negative Nancy type parenting. Moving on, Gamasutra has a article here. Second Life developer Linden Lab will ban gacha mechanics later this month. So, yeah, I didn't realize Second Life was still kind of doing anything. I find that slightly more surprising than any other element is that that Second Life hasn't been completely abandoned at this level.
You're in good hands.
Let's see, here we have a game on Steam called Snowboarding, which looks to be a little too low polygon, and the menu interface is pretty low polish. It's free, English only, but even if this was a student project, it's not really worth any mention. Here we have a game on Steam called Survive Into the Night, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter in a zombie environment with some pretty bad graphics. $8.49, English only. Okay. So, play this.
There is not a soul without sin.
Then we evolve this.
You were done for.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent.
And then restore defense and pump up some more. Let's see. According to Gametsu, Rico London launches September 2nd, a cel-shaded buddy cop first-person shooter. I know there was kind of a game that sounds like this, but I'm not sure if it really is Rico. Let's check out its Steam page. Rico London from Crown Shatter. Which, man, I haven't heard. I haven't seen any of these games. Yeah, they have a mixed game called Super Epic Entertainment War. They have a game called Battle Axe, which is mixed. And they have Rogue Glitch, which is overwhelmingly positive. So they're doing 1 out of 3 as far as quality games, and their overwhelmingly positive game is a roguelite that focuses on platforming. Let's see. Yeah, I just don't think there's a gameplay mechanic here I'd really want to play. That's too much frustration and precision platforming for me. And frankly, I don't like the neon colorful art style. That's just a little too much.
Please, no more.
Let judgment fall.
There we go. The game Soup Pot has been delayed to later in 2021, no longer coming out in August, which that's another example of a game that announced itself just a few months ago and is already delaying.
Just like new.
A Ghost of Tsushima Legends standalone version launches August 12th. Rivals Mode update launches September 3rd. The Legends is a multiplayer mode, online multiplayer mode. So it seems like what they're trying to do is make Ghost of Tsushima a long-running series of games, which I don't know if that's really going to work, but it's an attempt. If anything, it is an attempt to make something that is closer to an Asian MMO from a Western developer, so maybe there'd be a little bit more polish there. And maybe they could steal some audience that way. Right, we can do 12 damage right now.
Where I truly shine.
So if I do this, then this,
Let judgment
then
fall.
this,
Your
I
strength
win.
is formidable.
Let's see. According to Gametsu, a roguelike deck builder, Chrono Faction Tokyo Rain, has been announced for Switch and PC. Which, let's see if I can play this video. It looks interesting. It looks different. I don't know if that means there is a multiplayer here that would make a game like this really make sense, or if this is a single player kind of deck builder game. I don't know if I really want to jump off of Steam, so good thing it does have a Steam listing here. It's labeled as a trading card game, but I don't know if it's a collectible card game. Single player online PvP. You know, as the Marvel game still drags its feet, it might be interesting to try a game like this. But generally what I'm doing is I see a game like that, I put it on the watch list, wish list, and then I check it out if Shadowverse does something really annoying to me, like banning me or something like that. But yeah, I can see the beginning of the end, so this should be a last game. According to Gametsu, Bang G Dream Girls Band Party for Switch demo is now available in Japan. It'll be only available until September 15th.
Is fighting and
This definitely looks like it is some kind of anime game. They're calling it a rhythm game. Demo has 5 songs. See, what's weird here is usually if it's a rhythm game, then you have like idols in high Japanese fashion clothing and outfits and wild different hairstyles. Instead, they've done an animation here where they are in a very generic, like standard school outfit, and different colored eyes, different expressions. There's different hairstyles, but all very realistic. This is something to be admired, certainly. There's just far too many games out there, or depictions of the anime art style, that just go too wild to the point where there isn't any normal looking people at all in the entire series. This is a game from a developer called Craft Egg, which I've never heard of. It's also a rhythm game, so there's a high chance I would not be interested in it. Gamatsu also has Smashing the Battle Ghost Soul coming to Switch on August 19th in Japan. It's currently available on the PS4. So this looks like more of your standard wild, high fashion JRPG games. And may very well never come to the West. Let's go and play that. It does seem like more games are getting announced, and we are back to the feeling, or Japan dipping their toes in announcing games and trying to release games. It felt like there was a bit of a glut there before, and I'm hoping that glut is gone, or it was just a seasonal glut. I'm saying glut, but I mean the opposite of glut. I mean drought. There was a bit of a drought there.
It looks like I'm up.
And I'm hoping that that's either done or it's seasonal. It was seasonal, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of games get pushed off, and it probably would be very interesting to just compare games announced for 2020, 2021 versus games actually released for 20 and 2021. Do that sometime in December of 2021, because there's going to be a massive list there. Moving on, Gamasutra says Rare is hiring a senior engine programmer. This is in Twycross, England. What's interesting here is Rare was one of the early acquisitions by Microsoft, so seeing that they're hiring someone does mean that they aren't just being shuttered or putting to side projects. They need an engine programmer, I would hope, because they are working on maybe making a new game or making better versions of Killer Instincts or continuations of Killer Instinct. But yeah, any hiring is probably good news. We already talked about this, but Gamasutra says the Blizzard president and HR exec depart after staff protests and harassment lawsuits. I believe there's another lawsuit that's also been filed. Jin O'Neill and Mike Ybarra have been appointed co-leaders of Blizzard effective immediately. They were recently the executive vice president of development and executive vice president and general manager of platform and technology. This is one of those points where it should be a slash, because and doesn't work, or what you do is and then ampersand, and that usually would better explain it. But honestly, you just rewrite this sentence where you say Jin O'Neill was the executive vice president of development and Mike Ybarra was the executive vice president and general manager of platforming and technology. And then you don't have to use the word respectively. There's a lot of updates here. It's not really quite a solution still. Just firing Blizzard employees. This is one of those rare cases where the upper management is
I shall take the
is
front.
actually going to get fired for bad behavior,
Rise again.
which rarely happens, or has rarely happened in the past. Let's see. Gamma Sutra also covering this a lot, but the Activision Blizzard walkout organizers have publicly rejected Bobby Kotick's response, which, alright, almost certainly they would reject whatever his response was. And Activision Blizzard warns financials could be hit by the California lawsuit. Non-Activision Blizzard news we have from Gamma Sutra is that the Spanish mobile studio Unusual, I guess that's the name of it. They netted $3.6 million from the Free Fire publisher Garena.
That was a fine bout.
So basically, Garena has invested in them.
You were done for.
And finally, it comes to this.
You're in good hands. You wouldn't.
Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam called Country Hospital, which I think is just another asset flip horror game, although its visuals look a little bit better. So there might be something here. I think I probably need to log into my account on Steam to get it to stop auto-playing videos. I guess I put this on the follow list. $8.49, English only. Here we have a game on Steam called Bang for Your Truck, which is just way too much neon color. $4.49, split screen, PvP only. That's a pretty bad offering. Here we have a game called Sudoku Colorful, which those pastel colors are way too bright for my eyes. Yeah. I wouldn't mind a little color in a Sudoku game, but I don't want a color gradient in the background to make it worse, and I don't want pastels. That's $1.19, several languages. I'm gonna reject that. Here we have a game called Natsu no Kanata Beyond the Summer, which is a visual novel that almost feels like a Chinese visual novel in that there's a lot of focus on the background and not as much animation as I think there should be. They're calling it a 2D platformer. That doesn't really make any sense. Text adventure game that depicts girls traveling in the apocalypse. Early access, free, but Japanese only. I think this might be a teaser for something else. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more of this, just very simple text-based games put on Steam to advertise some anime or manga or something that's happening in Japan, and it's just a free advertisement opportunity for them. Here we have a game on Steam called Wide Open, which looks like a fairly nicely published racing off-road game. Early access, $22.49, English only. That's probably too expensive, but I'll give it a follow. That's asking quite a lot. Here we have a game on Steam called Stellar Warfare, which is just a space game. Let's see, early access, $19.99, English only. You know what? I don't like the live now broadcasting feature, so I am going to see if I can just get rid of that, because I find that very annoying when it pops up and shows somebody streaming somewhere when I'm trying to look at a game on Steam. It's Probably the only thing on Steam that I found super annoying so far in my years of using it. Let's see. According to Video Games Chronicle, the first Pokemon update rebalances most of the Pokemon. Version 1.1.4 tweaks the stats and moves of 14 of the 21 available Pokemon. Unite is more of a League of Legends clone than anything else. Long list of changes here if you're interested in checking that out. Video Game Chronicles also has this. A Activision Blizzard exec Fran Tansent has deleted their Twitter profile following an inflammatory post about whistleblowing. So tensions obviously are very high. I think, honestly, this post was more even against whistleblowing in government, but even that is something I cannot agree with at all. She served as the assistant for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism under Bush, so you know how she feels about whistleblowers, basically. But in all fairness, all recent government presidencies have been incredibly anti-whistleblowing and anti-whistleblowers who show how even when given nearly unlimited rope, the government often breaks its own laws to do something more extreme, spy on people and do illegal or war crime activity. Ryan Watts, who is the head of gaming at YouTube, retweeted that there's this Fortnite game event called the Rift Tour. Seems like you're picking a winner and chooser there, but I mean, I guess you kind of have to if you're going to tweet anything. Ryan Watt tends not to really tweet much of anything of use one way or the other, though, so I feel like there's less of a, well, I guess there's not anything else to say there. He says some of that stuff sometimes, but usually he's not very helpful. Like YouTube in general is not that helpful for any kind of content creator, particularly gaming content creators, but certainly other kind of content creators get treated even worse than gaming content creators. Moving on, Video Games Chronicles says Sony has secured enough components to hit 22 million PlayStation 5 sales goal, and that they're not concerned about a semiconductor supply for its fiscal year target. Of course, they would say that because they don't want their stock market to drop. Here we have a game on Steam called Demons of Asterborg, which it's a little more zoomed in, so I'm willing to give it a little bit more slack. It's maybe a little too zoomed in for what looks like a Castlevania hack and slash platformer, but I'd be willing to give it a try. The prices though on some of these games are just ridiculously high at $24.99. Bunch of languages. I'll put it on the follow list though. I'll give it a chance. Here we have a game called 2D and Top D, which is an interesting idea. So one of the characters is a 2D character, and one of the characters is a 3D character, and you, in the middle of the gameplay, replace who you're controlling and move blocks. That's an interesting idea. Creative, to say the least. $17.99, single player, bunch of languages. Yeah, I think that deserves a follow. That definitely deserves a follow. And it's really nice to see a game that is just like, I've never heard of it, but we already talked about this one. But it's actually something, and it's just not a garbage game. Here, this one, Chris143, it's too pixely. I can't even give this the time of day. $3.99, English only. Mountaintop Studios is hiring an engineering manager in San Francisco. Let's see, according to Gamma Sutra. According to Video Games Chronicles, New World has been delayed for the 4th time, just weeks before its planned release. So yeah, New World still seems to be causing everyone trouble. Gamma Sutra says the Ascent has earned a record $5 million for the publisher Curve over its launch weekend. I think I heard people are not particularly happy with the early game of the Ascent, but it gets better. Although that's not a good sales point by any means. We already talked about the game Zool. Apparently it's a cult 90s platformer. Phantasy Star Online has a new character class, according to Major Nelson. He tweeted that out. Yeah, we already talked about Beat from Jet Set Radio being in Super Monkey Ball. Gamescom 2021 opening night live will be a 2-hour showcase. Okay, I don't know if Gamescom, that is like the German presentation, I believe, or the European games. Nope, German Game Industry Association. Yeah, it's a German video game presentation where we tend not to see that many new announcements. It would make a lot of sense though for us to start seeing more announcements at Gamescom and less announcements at things like E3 or individual presentations or PAXs. Like PAX in particular, if PAXs are going to be less attended and less focused on games and more just around people playing board games and hanging out, I could see considerably fewer announcements as far as video games, and there's barely any even happening now. Here we have a game on Steam called Spaceship Infinity, which clearly is just an asteroids game for 79 cents, so nothing more needs to be said. According to Gamma Sutra, hardware has granted Sony a marginal sales boost as software sales and PS4 subscriptions dip, which, okay. The winner in a Steam controller case says Valve should pay $6.5 million in attorney fees. So this is Ironburg Inventions, probably not a real acting company, probably just a patent troll company, sued Valve, and I guess this happened. I don't remember seeing any news about this. And they won the case, and now they're seeking for $6.5 million attorney's fees, which that is kind of the problem in general with patent trolls, is that they're going for $6.5 million in attorney's fees, but they were only awarded $4 million in damages in general, so they're looking for more money in attorney's fees than what they want in damages. Now, generally speaking, as an armchair understander of the law, the moving party cannot sue for attorney fees. So, since this almost certainly was a case that Ironburg Inventions filed the first patent claim on lawsuit against Valve, they would be the moving party, so they would not be entitled to that. That's my armchair understanding of it, but I could be totally wrong about that. This patent dealt with paddles on the back of the Steam controller. Other developers have just been licensing the patent to add paddles or sold them separately like Sony does. This probably was a case where Valve thought that this patent wouldn't hold up in court, and sadly it did. And it really is just an example of a very generic concept of having paddles on the back of a controller being patented, and then limiting society's ability to progress to have better controllers. And that definitely shows you why there aren't paddles on the main Xbox One, and there aren't paddles on the PlayStation 4 controller. It's because somebody there has a patent that is making money for doing nothing as a patent troll. Moving on, Gamma Sutra says, going forward, Unity developers will need Unity Pro to publish on consoles, which that's in a lot of ways probably something you would expect. Whereas before it was a case, if their funding or revenue was greater than 200,000 in the last 12 months, smaller developers basically were getting it for free. Currently now, though, to get Unity Pro, you're paying $18,000 per year per seat, which means every single copy of the software installed, which, yeah, you could easily see 5, 10, 20 people needing a copy of Unity Pro. This is a bad way to license your software, though. It gets into the whole Windows thing. Like, you're going to see people without Unity Pro working on the game, and then they'll have like one copy of Unity Pro license. And $1,800 per year is a lot of money to spend on software if you're a small-time developer. And honestly, I felt like Unity was the one engine that a lot of developers should use more than Unreal Engine. And they should be more welcoming to the smaller developers and the mobile developers. Anyways, moving on. I think that's a bad decision, but whatever. Apex Legends has averaged over 13 million weekly players in the most recent season, according to Gamma Sutra, if that interests anybody. I don't recall this story either. This company Colopal will pay Nintendo $30 million to settle a copyright infringement lawsuit. This probably is a Japanese copyright infringement lawsuit. They initially sued the mobile studio in 2016 for allegedly infringing on 5 patents. Again, a patent issue. Special technology used to operate a joystick over a touch panel that allegedly appeared in their mobile title White Cat Project, which this doesn't look like White Cat Project at all. This looks like Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon anime. They said they're confident that their game does not infringe upon Nintendo's patent rights, which I guess this is patents over copyrights, which is a slight difference as far as lawsuits. But they are going to settle with them anyways, just because Nintendo has a ridiculous amount of money. $30 million just to make Nintendo go away and not sue you. It's kind of ridiculous. Video Games Chronicles has an article here. EA says releasing a new Battlefield game every 2 years probably makes sense. Quote, probably makes sense. But the CEO, Andrew Wilson, also says players should think about Battlefield as a service. Which, it's still a shame that this is the most recent Battlefield art that people are using. Because this is the controversy art. Every 2 years is better than every year. Yeah, which fairly frequent releases of Battlefield games. Not sure if there's much of a growing audience as far as Battlefield games in general. Let's see. Moving on, we got just a couple more tabs. Duel Masters de Asabo for Switch is now available in Japan, so a new Duel Masters game for the Switch, not to be confused with Yu-Gi-Oh! I almost confused it there. Here we have a game on Steam called Orbles. Rolling adventure puzzle game. How does this play? You roll through when you're a specific color. Okay, how do you switch colors? I don't think there's enough of a game here. I think this is just a bad gameplay mechanic. It's from Farsight Studios, which is interesting because Farsight Studios is the makers of the Pinball Arcade. This is English, third-party EULA, $29.99. I'm gonna put this on the follow list just to watch it, but let me just... Yeah. They made Pinball Arcade. They pretty much abandoned Pinball Arcade when they lost the license. Then they made PBO, Professional Bowling Association Pro Bowling 2021, which you can see is mixed. And so now they're trying to do something very different. Yeah. I talked about that. I already talked about that. Okay, so then that puts me in a decent position, I think, where we can just scroll down my Twitter feed and see if there's any new news worth mentioning, and then we will just be done for today. We're right about right, set us up nicely for Friday. Here, this is probably worth mentioning now. Steve Gaynor has, quote, stepped back from Fulbright after allegations of a toxic work environment emerge. So he's not working on Open Roads as much. Former employees alleged that he used a veneer of inclusivity to hide a toxic culture driven by microaggressions. That seems like a hard to prove article accusation, really. Like, it seems like it's a hostile workplace environment claim, and depending on people's experiences, some people have only worked in hostile workplace environments and think that's normal. Some people have worked in great workplace environments and would be shocked when they got into anything that's even slightly hostile. But yeah, sadly, most of the jobs I've worked in were very hostile workplace environments. So, yeah. The Fulbright company, I believe, was made, if I recall correctly, from former employees who left the dim bulb company. And if I'm recalling correctly, and I think dim bulb was the makers of Gone Home, but probably need to investigate that if that was the claim I was going to make. Let's see if we can pull up Gone Home. Yeah, whatever I had done before that caused the search bar to disappear. I haven't got working right yet on Steam. Let's see, so that's something I need to work on. Yeah. So here we can see Gone Home is made by Fulbright. As Fulbright made any other games, it made Tacoma and Gone Home and the Gone Home soundtrack and Open Roads. Whereas if I was to go back here and type in dim bulb, Dim Bulb Games is the maker of Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. So actually, I think it's the other way around. I think Fulbright was first, and then Dim Bulb is people who maybe left the toxic environment and went to do this. Okay, well, it's good to learn something, certainly. Alright, so then that should just leave me with about 3 more tabs to check, and then we'll be done for today. Yeah, I think we talked about all of that. We talked about all of that. Let me just double check to make sure. Yep. And yep, I think we talked about all that. So yeah, we are in a good position. I have a little bit more work I'm gonna have to do with uBlock Origin. This time I think I'll probably try and back up the settings in a text file. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.